You realize you have a choice. You can keep it, claim its energy, maybe even learn how to summon storms. Or you can let it go, return it to the sky that's missing a piece of itself. You think of what the Thunderbird said. Understanding and power are the same thing. Maybe true understanding means knowing when not to take. You raise the feather high, letting the wind tear it from your fingers. For a heartbeat, it resists, spinning like a coin tossed between worlds. Then it catches the light, flares brilliant white, and flies upward, vanishing into the storm. The thunder rolls once deep and final, then silence. Not absence, peace. You look around. The storm is gone, leaving only a faint drizzle that glimmers with gold dust. The ravine has transformed into a quiet pool, reflecting the last flicker of lightning like a closing eye. You exhale. For the first time, you realize how tired you are. Not just physically soul tired, like you've carried too much sky in your lungs. You sit on a rock and listen to the water drip, steady and slow. It's funny you came looking for the feather, but it feels more like the feather found you. The air softens. A final breeze brushes your face, warm and familiar. It carries a single sound, a faint chirp, like the echo of wings. The Thunderbird is gone, but you can still feel it overhead, somewhere beyond sight. A guardian waiting for the next listener brave or foolish enough to climb into a storm. You smile, whispering, happy to have been the messenger. The rain answers with one quiet sigh. You wake the next morning on the damp earth, the world hushed beneath a gray dawn. The air smells of ozone and wet soil, the perfume left behind by storms. For a long while, you lie there watching the clouds drift lazily across the pale sky, like the Thunderbird's feathers floating away into memory. Everything is calm now. Too calm, almost. You sit up, flexing your fingers, expecting lightning to crackle from your skin. But there's nothing. No glow, no thunder, no divine epiphany. Just you, your soaked clothes, and a strange quiet that feels heavier than sound. For a moment, you wonder if it all actually happened. The feather, the storm, the voice in the mist, maybe it was just exhaustion and adrenaline. Historians still argue whether ancient visions of gods and spirits were hallucinations born of stress or true encounters beyond explanation. You could add your own footnote to that debate, if you could ever explain what you saw. You laugh softly. Try putting that on Wikipedia. The ravine looks different in daylight, smaller, less mystical. The puddle that reflected the storm now mirrors only the pale blue sky. Yet when you step closer, the surface ripples with faint light, shimmering just once before fading. A farewell, perhaps, or proof. You take it as both. As you walk home, the world feels new in small ways. The wind brushes your cheek like an old friend. The trees seem to breathe. Every distant rumble of thunder sounds like a heartbeat instead of a threat. It is strange how quickly awe can replace fear once you've seen what is behind it. You remember the Thunderbird's words, "We never left." You stopped listening. Maybe the storms were never warnings, they were invitations. Maybe every flash of lightning was the sky saying, "Pay attention. I'm still here." When you reach the edge of town, everything feels slower. Cars move, but their engines hum softer. People talk, but their words fall lighter. You realize the world hasn't changed. You have. The air between things, the invisible tension that holds moments together, feels alive. You pause under a power line buzzing faintly overhead. Funny how that sounds so ordinary, so human-made echoes the same hum that led you to the feather. You wonder if deep down, our machines are just echoes of what the Thunderbird taught us, that energy is a language, and we've only learned a few words of it. At home, you pour yourself a glass of water and watch it tremble slightly as distant thunder grumbles on the horizon. Not close, not threatening, just present. You raise the glass in a quiet toast to the storm that listens. For a second, you swear the thunder answers, back a low, approving rumble that fades like laughter. You smile. Maybe you didn't keep the feather, but something stayed. A memory, a charge, a spark of understanding. The kind that hums under the skin when the rain starts to fall. And maybe, someday, when the sky darkens and the wind shifts again, you'll feel that same electric tug, calling you back to where clouds are born. Not for power this time, but for communion. For listening. Because once you've spoken with thunder, silence will never sound the same again. The storm's voice fades into the distance now, leaving only the gentle rhythm of rain. The air cools, the world softens. You close your eyes, tracing that fading hum inside your chest, where it settled like a heartbeat made of sky. The light dims. The world exhales. The last drop of thunder melts into silence, and you drift with it calm, grounded, safe in the hush that follows creation. Sleep well, traveler of storms. The sky remembers your name. End of script. Sweet dreams. The climb becomes a battle between you and the elements, a test of lungs and willpower. The ridge turns to slate under your feet, slick and treacherous, and the air hums with static that tickles the back of your neck. Every flash of lightning feels closer, sharper, almost like the sky's way of keeping track of you. Rain lashes your face like thrown sand, but you keep moving. You have to. The air ahead seems to shimmer faintly, forming a wall of mist, as if the storm itself has built a door and is daring you to open it. When you cross the threshold, the world changes. The wind quiets to a low vibration, and suddenly you're standing in what feels like the hollow belly of a cloud. It's vast and lightless, but alive with faint flickers of energy that crawl like veins through fog. You breathe in deeply and taste electricity. The scent reminds you of the first time you touched a power socket as a kid, except now, instead of pain, there's something intoxicating, magnetic. Then you hear it, a low rumble that isn't thunder. Its rhythm deliberate and slow, echoing across the mist. You realize with a chill that it's the beat of wings. You squint upward, trying to see, but the fog moves like smoke. Shapes come and go. Once, you think you see a talon bigger than your arm. Once, a single glowing eye. You're not sure if they're illusions or glimpses, and you don't want to find out. The air ripples again, and a voice, not a sound, but a vibration in your bones asks, "Why do you climb?" You freeze. The rational part of your brain starts its list. Auditory hallucination due to exhaustion, dehydration, stress. But another part, the part that dragged you here in the first place, knows better. "I'm looking for the last feather," you say aloud, your voice shaky. The one that carries the storm's memory. There's silence. Then a long rolling thunderclap that feels like laughter. "Many seek memory," the voice says. "Few survive remembrance." You swallow hard. "I don't want power. I just want to understand." Understanding and power are the same thing, it answers. Ask the ones who caught lightning in jars. And you think of Benjamin Franklin again, but this time with a strange twist. Historians still argue whether he actually meant to capture lightning, or if the experiment was a symbolic challenge to superstition, a way of saying, we control nature now. Yet maybe, just maybe, he hadn't realized what he'd called down. The mist thickens. A shadow looms before you, something enormous. You can't see it fully, but its outline spans the clouds. Feathers shimmer faintly like polished obsidian. A single spark arcs down one of them, illuminating raindrops suspended midair. You take a step closer. Are you the Thunderbird? The clouds churn, and for a moment you feel small, smaller than you've ever felt in your life. The creature tilts its head, and the storm seems to hold its breath. Names are for those who die. It rumbles. We are what remains. That's not comforting. You almost make a joke, something like, "Okay, but do you have an Instagram?" But your throat's too dry. Instead, you watch as the mist gathers at its feet, condensing into tiny glowing motes. They drift toward you, buzzing softly, like fireflies made of static. When one lands on your skin, it burns cold. A memory flashes not yours. You see endless plains covered in forests, rivers winding silver under untouched sky. Lightning strikes not as destruction but creation, feeding life into the soil. You gasp. It's not a memory from history books. It's the storm's memory. You stumble back, heart pounding. You're showing me the world before humans. Before noise, the Thunderbird answers. Before walls and wires. When thunder was enough to name the sky. There's awe in your chest, and something else, fear, deep and grounding. Because for all your fascination with weather, you've never felt so small, so intrusive. Still, curiosity wins. Then why did you leave? You ask. The clouds darken. The Thunderbird's voice lowers until it's almost a whisper in the rain. We never left. You stopped listening. Lightning explodes across the sky, and for a heartbeat, you see the creature in full, a bird larger than mountains, feathers spreading horizon to horizon, eyes like burning suns. And in its chest, a hollow shimmer where something's missing. You realize it then. That's where the feather came from, the last piece torn away when the sky first went silent. The mist closes around you again. Where is it? You whisper. Where's the last feather? The Thunderbird's eyes flare brighter. Find the sound that doesn't belong, it says. It will lead you to what remains. And just like that, the light fades. The storm snaps back to fury wind, rain, lightning all at once. You stumble forward, searching for any clue. Somewhere nearby, beneath the roar, you hear it. A faint hum, steady and wrong, like electricity trying to sing. You follow it. Because what else can you do when the sky itself just gave you directions? You follow that strange hum through the chaos, slipping over soaked stones and tree roots, slick as oil. The sound grows clearer the farther you go, not loud, but constant, like a pulse underwater. Lightning flashes to your right, painting the forest in ghostly blue light. For an instant, every branch and leaf looks etched in glass, then darkness again. The hum guides you toward a ravine where the storm seems to coil inward. The air is thick and warm, the kind of heat that doesn't belong in a thunderstorm. You can almost taste metal. When the next bolt cracks the sky, you see it a shimmer in the rain, suspended between two dead trees. A single feather hovering midder. It's enormous, easily longer than your arm, glowing faintly pink and gold at the edges like a sunset trapped in glass. The air around it trembles. Your first instinct, naturally, is awe. Your second is touch it, which, historically speaking, is how most horror movies begin. You hesitate. Then the wind whispers through the ravine your name. You reach out. The moment your fingers brush the feather, the world turns inside out. Everything you know collapses into light and sound. You see sky after sky, century after century, unfolding around you. The world before humans' oceans steaming, volcanoes birthing continents. The world after humans' machines rusted, forests returned. Time isn't a line anymore. It's thunder echoing forever. Your heartbeat matches it, slow and powerful. Somewhere in that cosmic noise, you hear the Thunderbird again, not in words this time, but in meaning. To touch the sky is to carry its memory. When you blink, you're back in the ravine, but it's not quite real anymore. Rain floats upward instead of down. Stones hum softly like tuning forks. The feather is still in your hand, glowing brighter now. It feels impossibly light and unbearably heavy all at once. You laugh nervously because your brain defaults to humor in moments of existential crisis. Cool. So now I'm what? A weather god? The storm answers by tightening around you, a cyclone of wind and mist. You hear voices layered in the thunder people chanting, crying, singing, fragments of every storm story ever told. The flood myths, the rain dances, the prayers to the sky. It's like history itself is alive in the air. Historians still argue whether ancient peoples' thunder gods were symbolic or if they described real phenomena: meteors, volcanoes, atmospheric electricity. Standing here, you realize how pointless that argument is. The truth isn't about what's real. It's about what humanity heard in the thunder. The feather pulses, sinking to your heartbeat. The air tastes sharper. You lift it, and for a moment, everything stops: the rain, the wind, even the lightning. The world holds its breath. Then the clouds shift. Through them, you glimpse the Thunderbird again, massive and silent, watching. You can't tell if it's approving or warning you. The feather hums with power. Hey guys, tonight we sink straight into the storm. Not a metaphorical one, but the kind that tears across the mountains, rattles the windows, and makes you wonder if the sky is in labor. The story we're entering begins at the edge of such a storm, and trust me, you probably won't survive this one unless you know how to listen when thunder speaks. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to Fantasy Gleam, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and your local time in the comments. I love seeing where in the world these stories drift. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake to the sound of the world splitting itself open. The first crack of thunder doesn't sound distant. It sounds personal, like someone dragging a metal chain across the roof above your skull. The air smells of wet copper and pine sap, and somewhere beyond your small campfire, the horizon is shaking. Every legend about the Thunderbird begins like this, with a storm that feels too deliberate to be weather. You sit up, brushing dew from your hair, and for a moment, you swear you can see shapes forming in the lightning. Great wings unfurling, a beak that could split mountains, feathers like burning sheets of glass. The old tribes of the Great Plains once said the Thunderbird brought the rains each spring, its wings creating thunderclaps, and its eyes flashing lightning. Historians still argue whether these tales emerged independently across tribes, or if they shared a common ancestral myth, passed down like thunder itself, always moving, never belonging to one place. You rub warmth back into your hands, staring at your old field notebook. You came out here chasing patterns, ancient storm routes, magnetic anomalies, weather data that made no sense. Yet there's another reason, one you barely admit even to yourself. A single line from an obscure Dakota folktale you found tucked in a forgotten archive. When the Thunderbird falls silent, one feather will remain, and whoever finds it will hold the voice of storms. It sounded poetic at first. Then you found that all the regions hit by unusual lightning storms lined up perfectly with the path that legend described. Coincidence? Sure, probably. Or maybe the kind of coincidence that changes the way your pulse beats at night. You shoulder your weatherproof pack and step into the open plain. The horizon flickers again, revealing distant ridges that look like the bones of sleeping giants. Your breath fogs. The rain starts as a whisper and then escalates, each droplet cold and sharp. A little historical detour flickers through your mind. Benjamin Franklin's kite experiment minus 1752, Philadelphia. A single key, a thin line, and lightning itself proved to be electricity. You can't help but smirk. At least Franklin didn't have to hike through it, you mutter, tugging your hood tighter. But here's the thing. Even science has its blind spots. There's a note in Franklin's journals, one most people ignore, where he describes the air crackling with a living resonance, as though the lightning were responding to him. Historians debate if that was exhaustion talking, or if he actually felt what the indigenous nations had spoken of for centuries, that the storm is aware. You start walking. The mud grips your boots, the wind shoves you sideways, and every breath tastes like ozone. You pass an abandoned fence, wires torn loose and humming faintly. The static builds, prickling across your arms. Somewhere, deep in the clouds, a sound rolls, not thunder exactly, but something winged. For a split second, you see it, an outline so massive it blocks half the stars. And just as quickly, it's gone. You're left staring at a sky that looks guilty, like it swallowed its own secret. A flash blinds you. Thunder follows half a heartbeat later. Your rational mind lists the facts. High voltage, storm core proximity, natural phenomena. But the rest of you, the part that dreams and listens, whispers. It's calling you. You should probably turn back. Instead, you adjust your pack, grit your teeth, and keep walking toward the sound of wings you can't quite see. Because somewhere out there, if the stories are true, a single feather is waiting, the last relic of a creature that once commanded the weather. And tonight, the storm feels expectant. The ridges rise like frozen waves, pale and shivering under the fitful glow of lightning. You've been walking for hours now, boots slick with mud, hair matted against your face. Each gust of wind feels almost personal, like fingers tugging at your coat, as though the storm itself were trying to stop you, or perhaps nudge you forward. You're not sure which. By now, the firelight of your camp is just a memory, swallowed by distance and rain. What remains is the steady pulse of thunder overhead, following your steps like a heartbeat that belongs to the sky. Halfway up the slope, you spot something that shouldn't be there, a wooden pole with weather charms tied to it. Feathers, bones, rusted bells. They rattle in the wind, crying out in some forgotten language of warning. Beneath it sits an old man wrapped in a blanket the color of storm clouds. His campfire glows blue-white, fed by herbs that smell sharp and metallic. "Long way to walk for a myth," he says, voice almost swallowed by the wind. You blink rain from your lashes. You've seen it? He doesn't look surprised that you know what it is. He pokes the fire with a stick. Everyone sees it, but few survive the looking. You crouch beside the flickering fire, and he turns to you slowly. His eyes glint like wet stone. "The Thunderbird," he murmurs, "is not a god. It's a memory of the earth before people spoke loud enough to drown the wind. It brings storms not because it chooses to, but because storms are what it is." He gestures toward the sky. They say each feather is a storm trapped in rest. When the last feather falls, the world will remember silence again. You almost laugh, but something in his tone keeps you quiet. The storm above you cracks open again, and in the flash of light, you see a dozen more weather poles lining the ridge, each trembling with the same charms, as though bowing to the thunder. He chuckles, catching your skeptical expression. Historians still argue whether the Thunderbird was meant to be a real being or a way to explain lightning before science named it. But science doesn't explain why some of us still feel something watching when the sky breaks open, does it? You shake your head. The smell of the fire grows stronger: herbs, ozone, and something else. Metal, faintly sweet. What are you burning? He smiles a little. Pieces of a plane that lightning brought down here years ago. Every storm leaves its offerings. It's both creepy and poetic, exactly your type of luck. You pull out your notebook, flipping to a page marked magnetic patterns near ridge line. The readings you took earlier show surges of electricity spiking in irregular rhythms, not random at all, almost like a heartbeat. You're not the first to chase the feather, the man continues. Some tried to steal it, thinking they'd rule the skies. Others just wanted to hear its song once. None came back whole. You ask, what happened to them? He shrugs. Depends who you ask. Some say they were burned away by lightning. Others say they became wind themselves. Then his voice softens, losing the weight of myth. And a few of us say the Thunderbird chooses who remembers it. That's not a blessing, mind you. Remembering hurts. Another flash, this one so close that your hair stands on end. The air tastes like tin. The man rises, wrapping his blanket tighter. The trail goes up, he says. If you're still foolish enough to follow it, you open your mouth to thank him, but when you glance back, the space where he stood is empty. The fire flickers once, then dies, leaving only the smell of wet metal. The ridge above you shudders under the wind. You climb, gripping the rocks with numb fingers, the storm clawing at your clothes. Every few steps, you hear that low hum again. Not thunder exactly, but wings. You remember a weird fringe theory you once read online, claiming that thunderheads could act as living entities, massive electrical organisms drifting in the atmosphere. You'd laughed back then. Now, as the ridge quivers under your boots, the idea feels less absurd. Lightning forks across the valley, and for a moment, you see something suspended between clouds. A shadow with feathers the size of sails, eyes like suns turning toward you. The air vibrates so hard your teeth ache. And in that shimmering instant, you realize it isn't just storm you're walking into. It's something alive. You take one more breath, steady and trembling, and step forward into the clouds.